You walk into a crowded cafeteria, noise everywhere, motion everywhere. And before you've taken 3 steps, your eyes have already done a full lap of the room. Who's safe? Who's off? Who's pretending? Where is the safe seat with a wall behind it? Nobody taught you that. You learned it the hard way. And 20 years later, you still scan every room you walk into. If you've ever felt like you read a room half a second faster than everyone around you, if you've ever walked into a party and instantly clocked the one person who felt left out, then this video is about to name something you've been carrying for a very long time. You're not paranoid. You're not too much. You were trained, and today you're going to find out exactly what that training built and why it might be one of the most valuable things about you. Here's the word the world put on you: sensitive, guarded, intense, hard to read. People told you that you overthink, that you take things too seriously, that you should just relax. And somewhere along the way, you probably believed them. But what they were describing wasn't a flaw. It was a finely tuned instrument. Because if you were bullied as a kid, your brain didn't just survive it, it adapted. Psychologists have a name for the state your nervous system learned to live in: hypervigilance. Basically, it means your threat radar got dialed all the way up and never fully got turned back down. To an outsider, that can look like anxiety. From the inside, it can feel like exhaustion. But functionally, it made you one of the most perceptive people in almost any room you walk into. You catch the shift in someone's tone. You see the micro expression that flickers across a face for half a second. You feel a room change before anyone says a word. And that's just the first sign. Because the signs I'm talking about aren't dramatic. They're not flashbacks or breakdowns. They're small, ordinary, almost invisible, which is exactly why you never connected them to anything. The way you sit facing the door, the way you laugh a half beat late, the way you already have an exit planned. Innocent little habits. Each one a fingerprint. And there's one specific thing this rewiring did to how you trust people. Something that quietly shapes every close relationship you have. But we'll get to that. Because here's what almost nobody tells you about being bullied: the effects don't stop when the bullying stops. Researchers at the University of Warwick followed more than 7,000 children for decades, all the way into adulthood. And what they found was uncomfortable. The psychological fingerprint of being bullied didn't fade with time. It showed up in mental health, in relationships, even in physical health, long after everyone assumed the person had moved on. Here's why. Your brain doesn't file repeated social threat the way it files a one-time accident. A car crash happens once. Bullying happens again and again, aimed straight at the systems that decide whether you feel safe around other humans. Neuroscientists scanning kids who'd been chronically bullied found measurable changes in the amygdala, the brain's alarm center. It didn't just fire more often, it reset itself to a whole new baseline. And now, the part that stings because it points right at you. That story, "I'm fine, it wasn't that bad, other people had it worse," that you've quietly told yourself for years. The research suggests that's not humility. That's the injury still talking. And here's the second thing the science found, the one that flips the whole story. Work on post-traumatic growth, the strange phenomenon where people develop real strengths through adversity, keeps landing on the same result. Survivors of childhood social pain score higher than average on empathy, on social awareness, on emotional depth. Not despite what happened, because of the way their brains adapted to it. But wait, it gets stranger. Let's talk about what this actually looks like in your adult life, because it hides in plain sight. And here's what's fascinating. The first layer is trust, not the loss of it. Something more precise. Attachment researchers call it hypervigilant trust processing. You don't refuse to trust people. You audit them. You notice the gap between what someone says and what they actually do. You can feel when warmth is performed instead of real. And that's the thing I promised you a minute ago. Here it is. You keep a small part of yourself just out of reach, not as a strategy, not on purpose, but because some buried wiring learned that being fully seen once meant becoming a target. The people who love you sometimes feel it, the warmth and the quiet distance living right behind it. And here's another layer. Picture this. It's a Tuesday around 7 in the evening. You're at dinner with people who genuinely like you. Everyone's relaxed. And you're the only one who noticed the friend at the far end of the table go quiet 20 minutes ago. You felt their exclusion before they said a single word. That's not a party trick. That's the empathy of someone who has stood on the other side of the room. But here's another layer, and this one costs you. That same radar that keeps you safe also makes being around people genuinely tiring. Your brain never quite got the memo that the war was over, so it keeps standing guard at a dinner party like it's still a hallway in 7th grade. And this is the part that separates you from people who had an easy childhood. To them, a room is just a room, neutral, background noise. To you, a room is information. Every glance, every pause, every shift in the air, all of it processed in real time whether you asked for it or not. That's why they can walk in and instantly relax and you can't. It's not that you're worse at being social, it's that you're doing a completely different, much harder job the entire time, and nobody around you even knows it's happening. And there's a reason two people with almost the same childhood can end up looking like total opposites as adults. One who disappears, one who dazzles. We'll get to why in a second. And this next part explains so much about why survivors and people who had easy childhoods sometimes just can't understand each other. Now, the harder truth, being bullied didn't just hurt, it handed you a voice. The one that says you don't really belong in the rooms you fought your way into, that you got lucky, that people will eventually see through you. Psychologists call it internalizing the bully's narrative, and it's why survivors report so much more imposter syndrome and quiet self-doubt than their actual lives could ever justify. And this is where those two opposite people come from. Some cope by shrinking, going quiet, taking up less space, agreeing when they don't. Others cope by armoring up. Charming, capable, liked by everyone, truly known by almost no one. Both worked once, both protected something real. So it's worth asking yourself gently, do you hold back because it brings you peace? Or because being fully seen still feels too heavy? Because one of those is rest, the other is hiding. So here's what I need you to actually hear. That voice that tells you you're too much or not enough, it was never yours. It was handed to you by people who had no authority to define you. Often kids drowning in their own pain. You didn't choose the hypervigilance. You didn't choose the radar. Your brain did what brains are built to do. It protected you, and it did the job brilliantly. Here's the one line worth keeping. The thing to actually remember. The room you walk into now is not the room you walked into then. The people are different, and so are you. The child who learned the world wasn't safe grew up into the adult who makes it safer for everyone else. That's not damage. That's a quiet kind of extraordinary. The work was never about erasing what happened. It's about teaching a very loyal alarm system that the threat is finally over.